Hello and welcome everybody. This is our second session on baby sleep. It's from Snooze, a Sleep Support Month. And this time we're going to be talking about the wonderful age group from 6 months to 12 months. It's one of my most, well, all age groups are lovely, but this particular one, you've got an awful lot of things happening and going on, and your baby, you're really getting to know your baby. With regards to sleep, it can be, for some lucky parents, they're in a really lovely routine at this time and things have settled down a bit. But actually for others, you may have settled down into some sort of pattern, but there may be a few little issues which are happening at night time and that you're not so sure about. So today we're going to be talking, and this particular session, we're going to be talking about some of those tips, advice, information. We're going to be talking about also sleep coaching as well. So we're going to be giving you lots of advice and information that you can use as best you see fit for your particular family. My name is Liz Day. I've worked with many companies and parenting advisor, and also have worked with many families as well. My background is psychology and child development, and I'm just going to hand you over to Sam, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her background and what she does as well. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Liz. My name is Sam Saunders, and I'm also known as the Baby Guru. And I work as a gentle parenting and baby coach. My background is in a sort of nursery nursing, midwifery, and some health visiting as well now. And I help parents all over the world, I have to say, with routine, sleep, feeding and weaning. So I try and help balance the whole sort of 24 hours, because it's really important when I'm helping families to look at everything that's going on, because it's never just one thing, it's a combination of things. So I look at the whole holistic sort of 24-hour family situation, and I help remotely with video consultations, with plans, telephone calls, and I also have a sleep app as well, which is suitable from 4 months upwards. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I have 4 children of my own, and now I have grandchildren, which are a sheer delight. So
oh, wonderful. Yes, and I've also got 2 children of my own as well. So we definitely have been through it. We've seen it, been through it, and also the families that we've worked for. I think we've encountered, possibly nearly most issues and problems that can crop up. And I think this is an important point you mentioned again, is this holistic approach. Sometimes you may be having issues, to do with sleep with your little one, but actually it's not really to do with your little one. It's other things that may be happening in your life that are a bit tough at the moment. So always give yourself a break, always have a check and just sort of see what other things are happening that are causing me possibly a bit of stress. And certainly at the time, I don't know if you agree, Sam, but we're going through a bit of a tough time at the moment. My goodness, with regards to lockdown and COVID, it's changed the way that sort of family life, the dynamics of it, being at home, sort of with all of us at home together, this changes a little bit with regards to, even sort of babies' sort of development about who they're spotting and who they're, it's quite intense really with regards to what's happening with their relationship with parents. I always think that's quite fascinating at the moment. And
yeah, I find that I often get, mums are if dads are working from home or your partner's working from home, that mums are sort of very conscious of, their little ones napping well and in the cot, whereas normally they'd probably be on their own at home and they wouldn't have that pressure of keeping them quiet so long, and they'd be getting out more for naps and doing more buggy naps and not focusing so much on trying to get these set naps every day. So I do think this is having a big pressure on parents as a whole in creating the right day all the time.
That's a really good point actually as well, because I think sometimes as well, people just don't have the space, so you're juggling, somebody who's working is going in and out of a room to work, sort of to try and get some, for it to be relatively quiet. And I think, you know, sort of the other partner, you know, is trying to sort of take baby and also sometimes deal with the toddler. So I just really want to sort of, you know, give everybody, you know, sort of a big hug, really, you know, that you're trying your best to do that, and pat, you know, because you're doing the best you can. We all are at this particular difficult time, but it will get a little bit better. And also, you know, when the weather starts to definitely, you know, starts to perk up a little bit, I think that's a wonderful opportunity, getting out and about. That's a good point, just to touch on that, Sam. I mean, I very strongly believe, which I think sometimes people can think, oh my goodness, is it a bit old fashioned, but you know, getting out with baby, you know, going out in the pram, the pushchair, and getting fresh air. I just feel for sleep, it's just such a wonderful thing to sort of do. It's a simple thing, but I think it makes the baby, you know, it's a different environment, different feel, you know, different, you know, sort of the senses are, you know, sort of they can sense that it's all very different. And also it's actually very good for the parents as well, you know, to get out. I mean, I know that you sort of can feel a bit, you know, oh, everything's a bit tough at the moment, or you've not had much sleep, you know, sometimes, oh, I don't know if I've got the effort to go out, you know, but actually if you do, well, in my experience, and for me personally as a parent, it's, you know, 9 times out of 10, you feel a bit better doing that. And what do you think?
Yeah, usually, yeah, I try and suggest that, you know, 1 nap a day is out and about, and often the last nap of the day. And, you know, getting some vitamin D is good for us all, and fresh air and daylight. So I think, yeah, you know, having a walk is really important. And that sort of, you know, it's nice for babies to be able to see outside and the trees, if you're, you know, or whatever's outside.
Yeah,
I think it's really important. And I don't think it's old fashioned at all. I think it's, you know, it's what we all need. And, you know, you get cabin fever, you're stuck indoors, we can't go anywhere. So I do think, you know, it's very important.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. I'm so glad that you totally agree with me. I think which is such a good thing. But that brings me on to, you know, sort of our first main question, really, which is, I think, you know, for this age group, 6 to 12 months, you know, I've got an idea, and I know that you have, that we can share it with everybody, is what does a goodish routine, you know, routine, sometimes, you know, sort of get a bit nervous of using that, but, you know, we all have routines by the time the baby's getting older. You know, what does a good routine look like during the day so that it enables good sleep to happen in the evening, you know, which is always, you know, sort of this the goal, you know, I think at this particular phase. There's a lot to work with, I think, at this 6 to 12 months. And I think you're able to sort of establish, you know, some really good foundations. But I know from my own experience that, and I think often sort of parents may sometimes not realize this, is what's happening in the day is just as important about what's going on at night. So I don't know if, Sam, you could take us through what you think is like a good from the morning, you know, sort of to the early evening. What is a good day time routine that enables, you know, good sleep?
Yeah, there's sort of 2 sections to this, really. There's a sort of 6 to 8 month sort of bit, and then they change they have a massive leap again at between 8 to 12 months. So I'll touch on the sort of early 6 to 8 months, and they're usually down to about 3 naps then. That's what you're sort of aiming for. So a get up time somewhere between 6 and 7 in the morning is normal. And then basically their sort of awake windows are roughly 2 to 2.5 hours, and I'd say that was sort of the max for most babies. And then a nap time. And if you're sort of beginning to introduce solids, you would give breakfast before the first nap, then a plate, you know, have a nap, and that could be 45 minutes to an hour. And then sort of a nice bit of playtime, and then their sort of lunch, if you're giving lunch sort of at that stage. And then their lunch nap, which is what we generally like to be their longest nap of the day. So anything from an hour and a half to 2 hours if your baby can manage it. And you might need to resettle them in that time. That's quite normal. And then and again, another couple of hours awake time, and then a little cat nap. And that's where I sort of suggest that's out and about in the pram or the buggy or in the sling, whatever you sort of feel most comfortable with. And that one's roughly 30 to 45 minutes. And then your wind down time, so your sort of dinner, if you're giving solids then, or just a feed, and then your bath bed sort of feed, little story, and bedtime, and then round about sort of 8 months that changes and they go down to 2 naps a day. So what I usually suggest is a sort of a morning and a lunchtime nap, and your awake windows there are roughly 2.5 hours than your first nap, then 3 hours in your second nap, and then 4 hours in bedtime. And that, if you can remember that sort of 2, 3, 4 from a roughly about 8 months, that works as a really good pattern for little ones.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting, some of those things I was thinking as you were saying that, some of the things that I've got a little bit, sort of when I've been advising families or parents is this afternoon, the getting the naps right, sort of after lunch. And also, sort of not being a bit cautious, certainly as they get older, is all of a sudden they're having a big nap, maybe at 3:30 or 3 o'clock or sort of around about that time. So ideally, Sam, you're sort of going for which, lunchtime possibly is around 12ish, and then you're going for sort of a sleep round about 1 o'clock. Is that what you feel is a good?
Yeah, that's right. Roughly sort of nap times 8:30, 9 in the morning, and then roughly 12:30, 1, depending on when your little one gets up.
Yeah.
So if they get up at 6 o'clock, your day's going to be a bit sort of start and finish a bit earlier. If they get up at 7 o'clock, then your day's going to be more of a 9 o'clock and a 1 o'clock nap, and then probably for both sort of types of babies, whether they're a 6 or 7 a.m. waker, then that last nap between 4 and 5 at some point, and awake by 5 o'clock, so they're ready to go down by 6:30, 7 in the evening.
Yeah. And do you think that nap, that little tiny nap, sort of that's do you think that can affect, that sort of nighttime sleep? How do you feel that could, or is that something that, it's when you're out in the pram, it's out and about, they may nod off, just have a little snooze for a little while?
Yeah, I think prior to sort of 8 months for sure. So between 6 and 7, it's very important, because otherwise they get overtired, even if they have 10 minutes then. But from about 8 months, if they have that nap still, you often find bedtime is a struggle, because they're super awake sort of thing. And so it's about, dropping that nap, but bringing bedtime forward for a little while. So going to bed at 6:30, 6:15 isn't too early for a little one. If they've just dropped that last nap of the day, if they're struggling to take it, you've sort of been out for a walk and they've not napped, then that's fine. Just get them to bed that little bit earlier, so that they're not overtired and struggle to A, go to sleep, and then B, stay asleep.
Yeah. And if they're going to sleep round about 6:30, say, round about that time, so what would you be expecting a little bit in an ideal scenario, to happen during the night?
So, until solids are established, and that, and they're eating 3 good meals a day, it's quite normal for little ones still to need 1 or 2 night feeds. So depending on what route you take and when you start weaning, that'll have an effect, and also on your baby's weight, and if they've got any other health issues as well. So but on average, by about 8 months, most babies have dropped their night feeds, and they're sort of going through the night sort of on a regular basis, not needing a feed. But between 6 to 8 months, there could still be 1 to 2 night feeds.
Okay, and also I from my experience as well, often what I say to parents is definitely from 6 to 12 months. I mean, ideally from 12 months, you're looking at a really good, stint of sleep, ideally for maybe 7 or 8 hours. But I think also from 6 to 12, what I can call good sleep is getting a really good period where baby's sleeping quiet. So it could be for some maybe 6 hours, for others it may be 7 or 8 hours. Yeah. How do you feel about this, sort of the expectations that parents might have?
Yes, I mean, if you can sort of get them down 6:30, 7ish, then quite often they'll wake between 1 and 2 for a feed. That's quite normal. So they've done their long stint then, which is their deepest sleep, and then they sort of might need a feed, and then they might go back down again and sleep through to the morning, or they might get to sort of 4 o'clock and then maybe need a small feed, and then you pick them up and wake and start your day sort of again by 7 o'clock in the morning. So that early stage of the night is generally when they have their long sleep.
Oh, that's really good. That's good to know, actually. Now, the other thing is moving on, actually, with regards to our next question is, well, it's where they're going to be sleeping, because of course they're going into the next phase with regards to moving into a big cot, and actually also moving into their own bedroom, which we were talking a little bit earlier, and I thought this was a really nice idea, is moving them into the big cot, and to get naps in there first, sort of get baby used to it. I think that's, sort of great idea, Sam.
They get used to their sort of environment, their bedroom, if you're ready to move them into their bedroom, smells and sounds different. It's like being in a hotel room and we go to it all feels a little bit different sort of thing. So, getting them used to their naps in their cots first, and then when you're ready, then you start using it sort of for the whole night. And usually from about 6 months, they're beginning to roll and they need that extra space. And I often say it's like having a double bed all to yourself. Babies can stretch and roll and move, and so they're ready for that next big space to sleep in and to be independent sleepers.
Yeah, and I think that's also another point as well. We've been telling parents quite a bit, put the baby on the back, they sleep on the back, that's the safest position. But now we're in a situation where baby is fine to have a bit of a wriggle and move around.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about going back and keep putting baby back on their backs to sleep. If baby does move around, which they often do, I think they move and usually go with their bottom sticking up in the air, if baby's happy and doing that, and an older baby, this is over 6 months, then it's absolutely fine. But yes, I think this is also the one time that you might be looking into monitors, because baby will be in their own room. And what I tend to think are quite good at the moment, and they can be relatively cheap, not too expensive, is the one with a video monitor, so that you've been used to keeping an eye. Baby's been quite close to you in the crib next to you, and also you're moving them now into their own bedroom. So I think actually to just have that little bit of reassurance that you can keep an eye on what's happening. Always remember though, with these monitors, they have lots of leads, they have to be plugged in, to put them well away, because I know that it's very easy. Babies develop so quickly. They're so quick at picking up on things. And, before you know it, this little one can be standing up in the cot or pulling themselves up, and they'll grab anything that's within reach. So please bear in mind to sort of put that to one side. And the other thing is as well, with regards to bedding and blankets, yes, you can still use, if you wish to do, you can use blankets and sheets, tuck them in, baby in feet to foot position. And of course, you still place baby on their backs when they first go down, put them on their backs. But what we tend to find is very popular now, especially for the older ones, is using a baby sleeping bag. They're cozy, they're useful, they stop this when it's very cold as well, that the covers get, knocked off. And also you can get the different TOG ratings, which we mentioned before, but, the TOG ratings is similar to how you get with the duvet. The higher the TOG rating, the thicker and denser the fabric is. And just be careful with baby sleeping bags when it gets very, very warm. And we've had a few hot summers, which have been lovely, but really quite warm. At that particular point, you may not need the baby sleeping bag, sort of take it off and they just be in a vest at that particular point. I think it's, sort of to bear that in mind. The other thing is as well, which I don't know what you feel, Sam, but just keep an eye when baby has a temperature. If they have a temperature, again, watch the blankets, the baby sleeping bag you're using, and remember to remove those layers if you have to do, while they're not feeling so good. And would you suggest all those sorts of things, Sam, as well?
Yeah, definitely. And when it's really cold, it's sort of layering them up. So, you could put a long sleeve vest on and a sleep suit, and then a 2.5 top, making sure they're fitted correctly and they're the right size for them, because you can get different sizes as well as TOG ratings. You get a pre-6 month, and then you get 6 to 12, and it's important that they're the right fitting for them as well. And as you say, as the summer months come, we reduce the layers and reduce the TOG rating on the bag. So I'd say have a couple of the size you need, so you've got one in the wash and
it's a good idea. Very good idea. No, wonderful. And also there's other ones as well. I mean, I love this one, actually, I really do. because it's got the zip, you know,
easy opening.
just the easy zip, you know, it stays on baby, but you can actually do the nappy changing if you need to do. Although saying that, as they get older, I don't know, I think you tend to find that you generally, when with older babies, you would be trying to avoid, you'd be using the nappies ideally that are good at night time, that you don't have to do a nappy change at night time, because they do tend to sort of wake a little bit when they sort of, you change their nappies. Do you tend to agree with that, Sam?
Yeah, definitely. You know, if your baby's still waking at night for a feed, which isn't unusual, then, you know, doing the minimum you can to disturb them. So keeping the light, you know, not pitch black, but dim, and as quiet as possible, little interaction as possible, and trying not to change their nappy unless they're dirty, of course. And sometimes when you're weaning, sometimes they start to poo again in the night, which isn't unusual, but it's a phase. And as they get used to the food, that'll pass again, and they'll be back to not doing that in the night.
Yes, yeah, no. So being guided by your baby, of course, change them if you need to. But also, you know, I love that thing about keeping it. I always found that really difficult, actually keeping it low key at night, because these gorgeous baby often can look up at you, big smile, you know, feeding a bit, you know, looking at you, wanting to have a little bit, and start cooing or babbling. And you know, you just to sort of think, oh my God, I'm going to have to resist this, you know, to engage too much with this little one, because you're trying to keep it low key and encouraging them to sort of go back and drop back into sleep. So yes, we're just finishing off on the products. I think, again, to keep the cot clear, you don't need other items in the cot at all. Just the baby, you know, wearing the baby sleeping bag, or possibly if you're using blankets, to use that. Always to keep an eye on it as well, depending on the layered approach, depending on what the weather is and how it changes. I think that's important, you know, to sort of consider. And keep an eye on the room temperature as well, you know, what that room temperature is. The other thing is, when you're moving to the new big, you know, the baby's room, be careful where you place the cot, near the window. You know, the light comes in at a different time of the day, and baby can get very hot. Be careful of that. And also radiators. It can be so easy to all of a sudden you just think, oh, that's the main place the cot can go. And my goodness, you realize it's really close to a radiator. Again, you know, really have to jiggle it so you've not got that cot next to a radiator. So think about those sort of points, and you're going to then, you know, develop this really good, you know, calm sleeping environment that's right for baby. The other thing is think about the blinds or curtains that you've got in the room. I mean, blackout blinds can be quite useful. I'm not, if you've got good, you know, good enough blinds, good enough curtains, usually they're fine. I'm not too fussed actually about blocking out every single bit of light, you know, for a little one. They've got to get used to the fact that actually light does come in at certain times. But I think that could be another thing to sort of consider. The other thing is as well, what's your feeling on sort of, I know that some parents get where they use different types of, you know, wonderful white noise, you know, different noises that these can make that, you know, help with soothing them, you know, just before they go to sleep. And often they continue with that as they get older. Do you think, you know, this is good for this age group as they get, you know, that bit?
I mean, often people ask me about white noise. It's quite a useful tool. It's a lot of parents at the moment have had to give over their second bedroom to an office, because we're working from home, so they're having to share a bedroom for a lot longer. So having it on when you go to bed, so if your little one's still in with you longer than you would have maybe liked because you would have moved them out, it sort of stops those when you're getting into bed and rustling around. It can help block those sort of noises. If you live in a noisy area on a busy street, you know, sort of the dustman in the morning, it can help block those noises. If they're sharing with a sibling, for say, you know, those, it can help sort of, if you've got one that you know, another one that maybe stirs in the night and you're putting two together, it can help then. And also when we get back to traveling as well, having, you know, if you're going to a hotel or an apartment or something, having those familiar things that they're used to, that sound, is often quite reassuring for a little one. So yes, there is definitely a place for them. And, you know, if you're worried about sort of creating a habit, then you just begin to reduce the volume of it down. They've usually got a volume control, and you just put it on quieter and quieter, and then stop using it.
Yeah, I like that. I really love those tips actually. And for travel, whenever we're able to do the traveling again, which sounds lovely. Yes, to know that this is easy to transport, easy to take with you. Yeah. And it's also, the thing is with sleeping bags as well, baby sleeping bags, they're so easy to take with you. Crikey, when my children were little, you definitely had to take, sort of quite a few bits and pieces with regards to bedding, so this makes it much easier, I think, for parents, to be able to, think about that side of things. So
yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention was just about safe sleeping is, as they learn to sit and to stand, is that you lower the cot down so that they cannot. That's so, when they first go into them, they're not able to, if they're little still, they're not sitting yet. But the moment they can sit, there is always that risk that they could, they learn to pull to stand quite quickly, lower that cot down to the lowest. So it's on the lowest level, no cot bumpers, so that first of all, the air can flow, but also so they can't sort of perch up on
foothold. My goodness, yes, definitely, actually. And I think it's also really, my goodness, 12-month-old or actually, sort of younger, how strong they can be with their arms. If they've started to do the crawling, they've started to do the moving. They are just so keen to keep that going. So they're having like a mini workout, actually, sort of most days, which I always find, actually, Sam, that is a good thing with regards to sleep. When they're moving more, they're from the sitting to the actual crawling, I always think physical activity is such an important factor with regards to sleep. The more that you can get, your little one doing various things when they're ready, and they're able to do that. I think it must correlate really with regards to, what physical activity they're doing. My goodness, I've seen some babies that can crawl fast. Again, that has a benefit for sleep, would you say?
Definitely. And, as soon as they start to toddle, getting them, walk, getting them outside for a little run around, even if it's sort of, if you haven't got a garden, getting to a park or something, so they can sort of burn off that afternoon energy after they've had their nap, is really important. And it's a way of getting that fresh air again, if you've been in, or they've been to nursery maybe, or something like that, is getting that run around outside is so important for sleep.
Oh, it is, actually. And I think also as well, even if you're not so sure about, it's going to be a bit slow to, to get to the park if we walk and all those things, I always think, well, use the pushchair. Then you get to the park and then you're a bit freer. Or you get to an area that's relatively safe, it's a grassed area, woodland area, possibly. If they fall over, yes, they might get a bit muddy, but actually they're fine because it's generally quite a soft area. Then they're also, again, it's a new environment for them to be, which they generally love and enjoy being out. I mean, nature and children, I mean, don't get me started. I think it's just a wonderful thing. They all love it. And as they get older, my goodness, they all love the stick, don't they? Finding the sticks. But it's, I think that physical activity is a good thing to sort of bear in mind, really. If you're looking at your routine during the day, have a look at that as you get that older baby and older toddler. I think that's sort of something that you can sort of think about as well. So I think with regards to the a cot and moving on, the one other thing that I didn't mention is a mattress. This is the time, definitely, when you're going for the bigger cot, and also for the cot that's going to last for a longer period of time until your little one goes into a bed, is it's worth investing in a really good quality mattress. And that is good and quality, firm, supportive, spring interior, all of those things that you can sort of look into, is because there's a lot of development. And also that little one is really going to use that mattress well. They're all going to have times where they jump up and, down on it, or they protest a bit, or they use it in a particular way. So it's worth looking at that to get that comfy and to make sure that when they go to sleep, they've really got that support for that, all that development that's happening around at that time. I think that's a good thing. We've touched on development side of things. We've touched a little bit on weaning and changing with regards to their food cycle and the food side of things with regards to feed. We also had we were talking about a little bit earlier as well, this sort of attachment bonding, the fact that they really do notice now, sort of who is caring for them, who's the main carers. And of course they want to be with us. And we were sort of talking about this crawling, and Sam, what you were saying was quite funny really with regards to this sort of phase.
Yeah, they learn, I believe they learn to crawl around about sort of 8 to 9 months, 10 months, something like that, because they just want to follow you. So you can't even go to the toilet or anything. And they're like 2 steps, or you're going to put the washing in or out, and they're like straight behind you. And they learn to get on the move to be with you, because they realize that you go and you're still there, but you've gone. And so they want to follow you wherever you've gone.
Yeah, I think this is it. You know, the changing nature of their personalities really are coming out. I think they're able to, they understand what's going to happen, what's taking place.
Yeah.
And I think this is the other thing that's a difficult balance for us to all as parents, and as sort of, you're in a position of, helping parents as well, is in this stage, because they're that bit older, is also a wait and see a little bit, when you put them down for sleep, when you put them down to nap. And is also this, it's hard to gently do this. I mean, I very much do not want babies to be left to be cry or to be distressed, of course not. But I think it's also realizing that little bit older, and how we were talking about as well, if you've just had a lovely time with them, reading a story, settling them, having some lovely time together before you put them down, everybody wants it to continue. They want that to, they're going to sort of, it's normal. I think this is a good point to maybe reassure parents. It's normal at this stage, when your baby's very well and everything, sort of with regards to their eating and the general side of things is going well. It's normal they'll protest some of the time when they go down for sleeps or go down, and they know that you're gonna go for a little while.
Yeah. So it's about giving them a couple of minutes and giving them that reassurance. Learning to wait is a massive skill we all have to learn in life. From when they get to school, they're going to have to wait for things, and when we're adults, we need to wait for things. And learning that, just for a couple of minutes, that mummy is coming, but I need to wait a couple of minutes, is a good thing to learn. And giving your baby a chance to settle themselves is so important. It doesn't have to be for long, but not rushing in immediately, and just sort of seeing if they will sort of turn over and go off on their own, rather than going, I need to be there. So, as you sort of said earlier, hovering over them the whole time, just giving them that, just a couple of minutes space.
It is, and it's encouraging that self-soothing that may have started when they were younger. It's keeping that going. And also the other thing that I sometimes say, imagine if you had 3 or 4 children, or you had twins, or maybe even triplets. That at some stage, naturally, you just wouldn't be able to instantly meet their needs straight away, but the babies would be fine. Always remember, it's in a good, safe location, good, safe place. Something crops up, and it always will do in family life. Somebody will urgently say, something's happened. It could be a family member. You've got to take a phone call, and you've got this little baby, that's just started to cry. There's something urgent. I'm only talking about urgent things, but you might have to leave your baby in the crib. It's a safe place, and deal with something. Or maybe you've got a toddler that's hurt themselves or something. The little one might be upset, but that they're safe, and they're going to be fine for those sort of a little while that you may have to be in that situation. And always remember that. Think of it as really with regards to the priorities that you might have to deal with sometimes with children, is, what's the safety is the key thing often, especially with little ones. Where can I put this little one for a little while? And that's always where, just be very careful of things when they're tiny. Is the bed, is thinking, I need to nip out. There's a toddler that's, if I put them in the middle of the bed, they might be okay. We know, just don't go there, just don't do that. Put them in the crib, put them in the cot. That's the place. Even if you just place them down, just with they're in a safe location, they're going to be fine for that time that you're actually dealing with what actually is going on. So it's a good thing to sort of consider and bear in mind. So yes, I think this period of time, they're developing their personality, and they've got this wonderful attachment that is developing very, very strongly with yourselves. And also the attachment as well is different a little bit maybe at the moment because of COVID. We're together all the time. So there's some wonderful things that's very strong, but just realizing that's naturally what happens at this stage. It's a natural part of normal development. And sometimes even when you're out and about, because it's different at the moment, you might need to give more reassurance. We were talking about this, weren't we, Sam? You know, that sort of babies and toddlers, they've not been around. So even grandparents have not been around. So just bearing in mind that sometimes you're their secure base. Always remember that. That's what, you know, is wonderful about this sort of period of development, is you're the one that sort of they're looking to for reassurance. Yeah. So actually we're going on to our, you know, sort of final question, really, in a way, is what many of you might have joined, you know, this session to learn about a little bit. Well, definitely, of course, about sleep, but also you may have heard the terms quite a bit: sleep training, sleep coaching, lots of different words that are out there. And also there's quite a lot of an explosion of lots of information that's on the internet about it. I think it's probably a really, you know, good opportunity here, especially for this age group as well, because often I think this is when parents may be thinking, oh, I wonder if I need a bit of that with my baby. Is, you know, I suppose dispelling some of those little myths, and also talking about what it is, you know, what is it about, really, Sam? And I know that you've had a tremendous experience in this area, of course. If you can help, you know, guide us through that, really, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, as I've worked as a sleep coach now for well over 15 years, and the one thing that I would never condone is cried out. It's never about that. When I look at helping a family to sort of establish good sleep, it's looking at not just how they go to sleep, but the times they're sleeping, where they're sleeping. It's a whole approach. So sleep coaching isn't just about you know, sort of getting them to self-soothe. That's a massive part of it. There are lots of other elements of it as well. But, you know, helping your little one to self-settle will definitely help when they wake in the night, which is perfectly normal for a little one to wake in the night, to be able to settle back to sleep with maybe just some gentle reassurance. But, you know, if you're dropping feeds and things in the night and they're ready for that, it's using it then to sort of drop those night feeds. Or if they're struggling at bedtime and you sort of, you know, you've been rocking and feeding them to sleep, which is most natural, and you feel they're ready to, and you are, to move on from that. That's when you sort of use some sleep coaching, is then. And it is about, I sort of try and get parents to feel confident in leaving their babies, as we talked about, for a very short period of time, and then going in and out or staying with them if you do a very gradual retreat approach, to sort of helping them to self-settle in their cots, but with you giving either constant reassurance, as I say, or in and out approach, sort of every couple of minutes, and sort of either using picking up or calming down, or just sort of reassurance with touch and words, and then retreating again, and then going back and responding to them, their reaction to sleep coaching. So every baby's different and they all respond differently, and it's really important that you respond to your baby and how it's reacting, but as how you want to parent as well. So it's important to look at all of it. And babies do go through, you know, a leap at 8 months, around 8 to 10 months, and that will affect their sleep. And that's when they've learned to pull to stand, and they're sort of, they're up in their cots, and it's about going in, laying them back down and reassuring them. So they might have been able to self-settle before this stage, and then all of a sudden they start to be getting up and waking in the night, or not settling so easy at bedtime. Giving them lots of reassurance, laying them back down again, stepping away, going back, and just repeating it over and over again. And that stage can last 2 or 3 weeks, and then it'll pass, and they would have finished their practicing of getting up and down, and they'll be confident in what they're doing, and they can often then get down themselves, and you won't need to go in, because they sort of stand up. Oh no, it is sleep time, I am tired, I'll get back down and go back to sleep again. So, you know, sleep coaching can come in many forms, and it's about finding an approach that feels comfortable for you, and that is, you know, and that you're confident with, because it's important that you're, you know, as a couple, or that you have support and you're on the same page with each other. That's really important, and that you work to it together.
Absolutely. Actually, I think that's you know, I was thinking that when you were saying all of that is it's a little bit of preparation sometimes. I think if you're thinking of, there's a few things that we're not so sure about, and, maybe it's now is the time, to sort of think about how we can gently, sort of ease those habits, or sort of, the little things that we did do at the beginning, which were fine, but maybe actually we need to lose these, is how I think the tough part, always the tough part, I understand this as a parent, is that once you start doing it, is to try and stick with it, even though it just feels a little bit tough at the beginning. And also how, as a couple together, how you support each other. You could find that it's easier for one parent to do it to start with, possibly, and the other one to be getting a bit of sleep, so that then when you need a little bit of more sleep, maybe the next day, or to catch up a little bit, you can do. So you're sort of working, sort of it out, and again, the way that suits yourself, both of you, to make it less stressful. But yeah, I this sort of the gentle method is always what I've used, and I quite like the method of where I'm in the room sometimes as well, especially toddlers, a little bit older ones. Sometimes they can get, sort of very vocal, but just having that reassurance, having that sort of presence there. And the other thing is as well, which I think probably is easy when you go in and you're helping families, because emotionally you can sort of you've got a professional, hat on, and it's a little bit easier, is to not get into the emotions too much of the little one, of what's happening, and to be very, very sort of soothing, and to help as much as possible, but to sort of realize, well, this is going to pass, and we're going to help to get, sort of the good sleep, so that also as well, your little one, if a little one doesn't have good sleep, we know it has a tremendous effect on their mood, but also actually on their eating patterns as well. Would you say this, Sam, as well, if their patterns are really not good as they get a bit older?
Definitely, it affects their mood and their development as well. If they're not sleeping well at night, and it affects you as a parent, and how, if you're tired and irritable, that affects how we interact with our children in the day. So good sleep is important for the whole family. And when you touched on just now about some of the key points of if you do embark on sleep coaching, as I say to parents, is, remain consistent and calm. That's so important, and patient. Babies need practice at doing this thing, at the self-settling, and you need to be there to sort of breathe calmly with them when you go to them, and to reassure them, and to stay patient. And that's, very important. And then what I normally see is you see a good little pattern of things start getting better and better, and you might get a little blip a few nights, and then things improve again. And it takes time, and, as I say, patience and consistency.
Yeah, and I think also as well, I think if you may not feel it, but I think actually sticking with it, and you'll gain these little bits of confidence, and you'll think, we're going to set this time aside, this is a good time for us, whatever time that is. And you can just gradually see and take it at your pace, that you want to take it at. I think that's the other thing. This can be a gradual thing. It doesn't mean to say that you've just got to do this, everything's got to happen, within a few days' time. I think it's just keeping it calm, and keeping it, sort of always thinking of your little one as well. I think that's a really important one. What's going to work for them, their character, their personality, and also trying to soothe them through this, because at the end of the day, you're the parent, and you're looking at it from the parent's point of view. What's sort of going to be good for my little one with regards to later on, when they're in the situation of going to nursery and all of that, and maybe possibly going to a childminder if you go back to work at some point. What things are really going to help this little one. I think that's a good thing to bear in mind. So I think, is there any other things that you want to mention, Sam, here about that sleep? I think we've nearly covered most points, I think, about it. Is there any other things that you want to add?
Only that I have over on my sleep coaching app, which is available, that has sort of two approaches to it. So you can take a read of both. It has lots of information on there, lots of reassurance, it gives a routine as well to sort of what you're looking towards. realistic expectations, and it has, you know, timers on there and graphs on there. It has all those little things. It's interactive. So it has lots of information on there. And if you just want to read about sleep coaching, it's a really good thing just to have a read about, even if you don't go down that road of doing it. It gives you some, you know, I've worked with so many families, and it was built with a lot of development and a lot of time spent doing it in home with families, and what I know works for little ones in general. So it's I've put a lot of into it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that sounds really helpful. And I think you can get it. Just download it the normal way that you don't download it now.
Yeah, it's on Android and Apple. It's on both.
Yeah, and what's it called again? Sorry.
It's called the Baby Guru Sleep App.
Okay, wonderful. And I think there's a small cost, but one-off. Is it?
Yeah, it's $3.99. It's a one-off cost, and you've always got it then. So when they do go through a development leap and you're sort of like, oh, something's happened again, you can go back to it. Yeah. It'll give you that reassurance. It'll give you, oh, this is what's happening. This is what I need to do.
Oh, I love that. I think that's a really good idea, actually. And, you know, it's you're right, something to have on your phone, you know, that you can just refer to if you need to do. So I think with regards to the questions that we're going to go through today, I think we've more or less done them, Sam. And I think with regards to the questions, you know, we had some wonderful questions sent in as well by parents. Thank you very much for that. I think the majority of them actually we've covered here with the sort of topics that we've done. And I think it's I think that, you know, the thing is again what said before, that if you get something that you're just not sure about, you know, that's going on with your little one, is have a chat with your health visitor. You will be seeing your health visitor from time to time, and all the team, certainly with the checks and those sort of things are still going to be going on. And also, if you're not feeling so good, you know, as we said before, we were going through a bit of a tough time at the moment for everyone. And have a chat with people. They're there to help and to support. And also there's some really good websites out there if you're just having a bit of a tough time at the moment. There's NHS Direct, of course, you know, this sort of Mind. There's very good articles with regards to, you know, anxiety and depression and these sort of things, very, very common at this time. Just have a look if you're not feeling so good. But always think about, as a family, and as you've got the support and help if you need it. And also, if, with regards to your little one, I just want to really confirm, this is what a lot of professionals are saying at the moment: if baby's not so well, or you know your baby so well now, and your gut instinct and you're sort of feeling something's not right, get it checked out. It's always good to do that. Don't hesitate to do it if you feel that, you know, that is something that needs to be looked into. But anyway, thank you very, very much for joining us, you know, for this session. We hope you found it very useful. We've got one more session that we're going to be doing, and this session is going to be on older toddlers, you know, sort of now we're going into the toddler phase from 12 months onwards, and it's the sort of things that you might be coming up against, or you may be sort of causing you a little bit of you know, a few questions that you might have. So yes, we look forward to answering your questions on that, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.